Should we use this opportunity now to talk about again? Uncle Dave is rambling. I'm not sure. Has Dave ever had a history of concussions? How would he have gotten them? Has he been beamed on the head with a bunch of notepads as a reporter? How would a reporter get concussion syndrome?
I've never heard anything about Dave and concussions, but on this topic, it's an interesting question. You think that, I mean, the other reporters are throwing their notepads, or someone grabs his and throws it at him?
Like on the Beverly Hillbillies, when Uncle Jed would take his hat and just whack Jethro in the head and say, boy, maybe a lot of the other reporters have just been taking notepads and just whacking Dave Meltzer in the head and say, boy, don't be so stupid. Something's gone wrong because he's misremembering current recent history. Apparently we have been alerted to on his message board. He can't get me out of his mind. He can't quit me, Brian. He can't get me out of his mind or apparently his keyboard.
Well, that seems to be the case. We were alerted by several of the listeners that are members of his website that he wrote on the message board in the Jim Cornette podcast thread something about the origin of your issues with him. And
now, wait a minute. He has on his message board, my podcast has a thread.
Right. Well, his message board, again, they sell a membership, him and Brian Alvarez, so people can go there and just say the craziest things. And
wait a minute, they have to pay?
They pay. You don't have access to that message board for free. They're afraid if they give it away for free, it would cause subscriptions to drop. So they have to charge people to go to their message board.
Well, we don't charge people to go to the Cult of Cornette Facebook group. We just, it takes forever for them to get in because there's so many, but we don't charge them.
Right. And we actually just let a few hundred people in the last few days. So keep trying to get in.
Keep trying.
We'll keep letting you in. But there's a section for radio shows and podcasts that are not part of the website. And there, the most popular thread has always been the Jim Cornette podcast thread.
Imagine that.
There are people who love the show, people who like the show and disagree with things that you and I say, which is fair. People who absolutely hate you and despise me and just feel that they have to go in there and listen and
hold on.
write about it.
Wait a minute. Why do they only hate me, but they despise you? Can't they despise both of us? I'm not as good at getting them to hate me as you are at getting them to despise you. Why does your despisal trump my hate?
Well, you've been on TV. I've just been making lots of money behind the scenes.
Well, no, but despising is worse than hating.
Yeah.
So I want to know how I can make them despise me like you've made them despise you.
You're not the heel you used to be. You're just not the heel you used to be. You got to move over, old man, for the young people like me who know what we're doing.
I've been trying.
Well, in this thread, I don't want you to get too upset here because, although if you are, CB Distillery may be something that could help you out and feel a little better today. But I'm
still working on bending that spoon. I'll report back next week.
In this thread, the topic of the issues between you and Dave came up. And again, for people new to the show, Dave and Jim were longtime friends. And then we started seeing more and more, and people started sending us more and more from this paywalled message board, which is almost in hiding.
And it wasn't all from there.
No.
He was on Twitter.
And
he was on his audio programs.
Just nonstop knocks at you, basically repeating talking points from the Young Bucks. And at the same time, and I say this as someone who saw them, he was emailing you complimentary things, thanking you for editorials on the show. Like, at the same time, because I say
this... It's publicly, hey, Dave, what's your favorite meal? Well, I don't know, but Cornette doesn't know. Cornette doesn't know. He won't learn.
And I felt like a fool, because at the time this was all going down, I was one of the people trying to get you, hey, maybe you guys should talk. Maybe you guys should, talk and just, you guys have been friends for years. Every single time, like within hours, Dave made a comment about you on Twitter and it blew I was like, fuck, there it goes. There was the chance. Mr. Self-Awareness blew it again. But again, in this thread on this message board behind a paywall, there were questions about the origins of your feud with Dave Meltzer. And here's what Dave had to write. The guy insulted me for years while acting like he was my friend because I went to PWG, a product he never saw, because they did a fake explosion years before I ever attended. I didn't throw one.
Wait, hold on. It's a fake explosion?
I guess that's one of the things they did, like the fake grenade. Didn't they do the fake grenade?
The fake hand grenade. The fake hand grenade.
Would you call that a fake explosion or a fake grenade? That's an interesting.
Either way.
Well, apparently that's. I'll go back to the beginning.
You shouldn't judge a promotion just on their fake explosions.
Acting like he was my friend because I went to PWG, a product he never saw because they did a fake explosion years before I ever attended. I didn't throw one of the first 100 punches.
What?
I wrote an article in November 1999, and I believe this date is off.
What?
He's off by a few decades here. He's talking about 2019, I think. I wrote an article in November 1999 about the demos and why AEW would get a new deal while he was saying they would go out of business by February and Vince would kill them with NXT. Him being so dead wrong is what the problem was. He started acting like I made up the demos being valuable, which showed how totally out of touch he was about the television industry.
Oh my God.
He had to pretend he was right, but there's no gray area who won the Wednesday Night War, nor is there gray area in whether or not AEW went out of business in February 2020.
Oh, so Jim, Lord. Hold on one second. While I got him fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
Number one, I said, if they keep on putting on television programs like they were the first couple months they were on the air, I said, can they be still in business in 6 months, or will they be out of business in 6 months, or whatever the fuck I said? I never said anything about the demo because I don't care about the demo. He's the one making up the demo. We've all heard about the demo because it's the only thing that they can really win in. And as far as the first 100 punches, Brian, the whole thing came down to, for years on the program, a couple years even before that, but especially when AEW got on television, we would be constantly bombarded with people say, well, Dave Meltzer says this about these guys, and Dave Meltzer says that about these guys. Why don't you like them? And I had to say, well, you know what? I don't know. There's no accounting for people's taste. I've defended Dave Meltzer for he never lied on purpose in all the years that I knew him. He was great with history, wonderful with obituaries, fucking had watched 40 years of every kind of wrestling around the world and certainly knew more than the fucking people that wanted to take the piss out of him, like the shit stains and the Bischoffs and etc. There's no contest there. And that's why I said, so I don't understand why he's so enamored of this shit and these people, because he's always seemed to have a level head. But hey, weed's legal in California. That was the worst thing. That
was the worst thing you said about him, and you said it jokingly while laughing every single time. That was the
most insulting thing that I said about the fucking guy. I couldn't understand it because I don't understand it. I still don't. I don't know whether he really believes this fucking malarkey that he defends these guys to the death and runs off people who have known him for 40 years, more than just me. I don't know whether it's because of because of his subscribers, or they're actually paying him under the table. Dave never seemed like an under the table guy to me. I think he's just doing it because he thinks they're his friends, and because whatever fucking thing he's got for this stupid style of phony wrestling, he will defend it to the death. Is it because that's what his only readers that he has left likes? I don't know. But the reason why he only has readers left that like that shit is partially because the people that read him for the previous 30 years can't stomach hearing this when they see what the shit actually looks like that he's given 5 stars to. That's been one of the problems. They're like, what the fuck? So is it projection? Is that what the kids call it? Where you're saying that someone else is doing the same thing that you did to them in order to defend yourself? But Brian, do you remember any incident where I fucking just dug into Dave until I finally had my Popeye moment and said, I'm sick of this fucking guy telling people that I'm so out of touch and that I refuse to learn because I won't say that these fucking kids' phony fucking wrestling looks good.
that's what it was. And I don't think it was just Dave wanted to be their friends. I think Dave has an issue with aging. I mean, Dave dyed his remaining hair black from what I've seen. And Dave dresses like a much younger person, I guess you could say. And Dave is obsessed with keeping up with the times. It's self-preservation too. And when you rejected Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, it wasn't about them. You were rejecting Dave. Dave anointed them. When Dave, he could say whatever he wants, but he's being dishonest if he says, when I gave Kenny Omega all those stars, I wasn't doing it for a reason. He was doing it for a reason. And the Young Bucks, they've had matches that weren't that great that he went crazy for. There's something there, and whether it's him hoping to hold on to the youth of wrestling, because if the young people in wrestling don't talk to Dave, he has nothing. If Dave loses people talking to him, what does Dave really have? He has, I mean, I shouldn't say nothing. He could still, even though his obituaries in my eyes have slipped, it's all basically the same thing. Just a bunch of random thoughts, and then let's just take it all right back to the beginning, and then let's just randomly throw more things out of timeline sequence all over the place. I don't like that anymore. I think they used to be better, actually. Now they're longer.
Well, he spent more time on them because he was not busy watching multiple gymnastics meets a week, but go ahead.
But I think that's a large part of it. You rejected what he was telling people, what he was putting his arms around, what he's putting the Observer around, which was the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. You stood against it as vocally as anyone could, to be fair about it.
Yeah.
But I think for him, he started repeating the things he was hearing them say. And I think Dave is someone who's kind of, he wants to be cool and he'll copy the people that he thinks are cool because he thinks that's the cool thing to do. Something fierce.
How are the nerdiest people in the world the ones that he wants to imitate as being? He said he's not trying to be Mick Jagger here.
Hey, you saw him around Ric Flair and you've seen him around other people. How many of them produce tongue wagging? How many of them produce tongue wagging? It's a different thing right now, man. It's a different thing. And for him to, again, it all comes back to you're supposed to apologize to him because of whatever comment was made in 2019 on the show about TBS. I think it was specifically about TBS having issues with the programming. And then, of course,
because I was astonished that TBS's standards from working for them 30 years ago and getting the memos that their standards had sunk to the point where they would air that dreck and or that they would be happy with that level of audience. But I guess they are, and they do.
And again, since that time, Jim's irrelevant. Jim's out of touch. More people listen to Jim every single day than read The Observer in a year.
Well, but here's the thing as far as being, why am I supposed to be in touch? What do I need to be in touch with, and what do I need to be in touch for? I like the things that I touch and the way I touch them. And what have my opinions that I express here on this program, why should I change those opinions? What about those opinions has damaged me in any way? If I see wrestling looks like shit, I say wrestling looks like shit, and here's why. And I have the most popular podcast in the goddamn planet. And I don't get asked to do jobs that I don't want to take. Imagine that. So I'm fine with my touch where it is. I don't need to be touching anything else but the shit that I'm touching. I'm happy with it.
And people ask sometimes, why don't you just leave it alone already? You guys said you don't want him to bring you up. Hey, listen, my attitude is if Dave's going to say shit that isn't true, we should correct it.
Well, yes, because again,
behind his
you were
paywall.
Sitting here listening and watching to this happen in real time when I tried to be as nice about him publicly as I possibly could until he would not stop telling people that I didn't know what I was talking about because I didn't want to fucking drop down and salabim twinkle toes McFucking finger bang.
We don't know what we're talking about. Which show/newsletter has been more accurate about what's going on in AEW the last 4 years? These two shows or The Observer? Whether it's the drama with Cody, whether it's everything with the Bucks and CM Punk, whether it's other backstage drama, who's been more on the ball?
But that's not fair to say, Brian, because we are allowed to say whatever we want to say and whatever we know, whereas he can't say certain things because it'll make his friends mad. So he's laboring at a handicap.
That's the thing that got me, was the idea that he's saying now this feud, again, lack of a better term, started because you insulted him for years while acting like you were his friend, when that's the exact thing Mr. Self-Awareness did. So that's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Can't rewrite history, Dave. We're going to correct it. More people will hear this than will see what you write on your message board that you charge people to enter to write whatever they want.
Well, you know what? Part of it, Brian, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but it's the voices in Dave's head. Because 30 years ago, they were friendly voices, and they helped him write his newsletter. They kept him awake at night. Come on, Dave, you're almost finished. Keep going. They were positive voices, but now they're negative voices. And the moral to that story is...
Yeah, where are you going with this?
Well, the moral of that story is you've got to have the right kind of voices in your head. You should pick the voices. See, Dave's voices just popped in there. He didn't really pick them. He didn't go through any interview period to hire the voices in his head. But you now, thanks to space-age technology, ladies and gentlemen, you have the power to pick what voices are going into your heads and what they say, courtesy of the Raycon everyday wireless earbuds. And that's what they don't even have any wires to them, hence the name wireless. What?
Why did you have to throw that in? Everyone knows that.
Well, no, it's a selling point. They don't have any wire. Now, one thing is I used to keep track of mine by just grabbing them by the wires. And you can't do that with the wireless ones, but...
It's also bad for wired headphones to do that.
Well, that's true. And especially it's bad for your ears because sometimes they'd be stuck and, you'd yank out and here'd come a whole big thing, big around as my fucking small fingernail of earwax. But nevertheless...
Oh.
So the Raycon wireless earbuds, which have no wires, so you can't even see them when they're in your head. And other people will think that, what?
What are you saying?
Well, normally...
That's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen.
No, normally... Just stop it.
The wireless earbuds that, in fact, have no wires, people won't see them when they're in your head.
No, what the thing is when you put the stuff with the wires and the stems and the sticks and the antenna, you look like my favorite Martian, and you've got these things, and everybody can see them because they're hanging out of your ears with things attached to them. Well, the wireless earbuds from Raycon, you stick them in your head, and people won't even notice them. Well, you'll be sitting there rocking out to Stairway from Heaven or Stairway to Heaven.
Stairway from Heaven.
Stairway from Heaven. See, that was the next album they came back.
It's actually an escalator.
Yes, it was an escalator. But you'll be rocking out to Stairway to Heaven, and somebody will come up next to you and say, hey, that's a pretty fine ass you got there, pal. And you'll ignore them because you won't hear them. And then they'll punch you in the face for turning down their fucking fresh talk. But see, they won't know that you got
talk.
They won't know they're fresh. They won't know you got earbuds in your head because they're wireless. And that's the thing that we need to do. We need to talk about the Raycons.
Let's do that.
Now,
yes. That's a great idea.
The Raycon everyday wireless earbuds, they've got a 32-hour battery life, including 8 hours of playtime. What the fuck would they do for the other 24 hours then if they weren't playing? I'm not sure how that's phrased. But you can listen to what you want when you want it for a really long time, over and over. Don't worry about your batteries petering out in the 11th minute of Inagata Davida, because they got you covered. They've got the customized gel tips for the most comfortable in-ear fit. You take these gel tips, you take the everyday earbuds, you put a little Vaseline right on the gel tips, and you push them as hard as you can right into your ear, and they will stay there until you want them to come out, and even then, sometimes, it'll be a procedure.
No, it will not. They will come out when you want them to come out. That's the Raycon promise.
That's the new ones, the new space-age experimental Raycon everyday earbuds. You just mouth the word, like, hey, Siri, what is this? Or, hey, ECMO, or all the things that you talk to your... ECMO, what's his name? Echo. Or ECMO, whichever
ECMO?
one.
You got Echo confused with ECMO?
ECMO. Well, he was the off-brand. It's like Rolex and Bolex. See, there was a slight difference, but came much cheaper. But the thing is, you just say, hey, come out. And the everyday earbuds just fly out of your fucking ears right into your hands.
They don't do that. Let's not mislead people and tell them.
They have tracking devices that you just
What?
well, you have to have a small tracking device implanted in the palm of your hand for that feature to work.
You don't have
that's a medical procedure that will require some recuperation time.
There is no feature. There will be no procedure. There is no tracking beacon in your hand or anywhere else.
They start at half the price of the other premium audio brands, but they sound just as good. So right there, you're saving half the money.
Yeah.
Who wants to pay twice as much for the same thing? That's almost like paying half as much for a quarter of the same thing.
Do they take stock?
They may take stock instead of, we're not sure. If you go to buy Raycon, BUYRAYCON.com, they'll tell you whether they take stock in trade for these or not. But they're so cheap and inexpensive. Well, I shouldn't say cheap. They're inexpensive. They're cheap to own, but they're high quality merchandise because they come with a 30-day happiness guarantee. The first 30 days that you have these things, if you don't take them out of your ears, you'll be happy for the entire 30 days, except when you're asleep, and then you won't be able to tell. But that's a 30-day happiness guarantee, so you can't lose anything. And what?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I come back later with it. Also, the earbud tap functions allow you to toggle between the 3 customizable sound profiles, noise isolation, and awareness mode. You've always wanted to be isolated from noise. You hit the toggle thing, and you won't be able to hear a thing. It'll make you completely deaf.
Dave could use awareness mode.
Dave could use the awareness mode. You hit that little toggle, and suddenly you know how much of a dipshit you are coming off to other people. And then also the toggle. You know, a lot of the young people like to toggle. That's that dance where they bend over and kind of shake their butt up and down, the toggle.
What? That's not the toggle.
Isn't that the toggle?
The twerk?
Well, I don't know who does it. Could be twerking, could be other people that do it, but they toggle.
I don't even know. I don't even know where to go or what to say.
Well, where will you go right now is to buyraycon.com/JCE because you can listen to this program on your everyday earbuds or other programs, not just ours, although we're trying to bribe somebody right now where they eliminate all of that. You know, that's what my dad, he was older when I was born. He was already, he was 47 years old when I was born. So he didn't like the Beatles. And he was not a rock and roll fan. And when I was a little bitty kid, 6 years old, and I wanted to listen to wacky radio in the car, he told me that he had the wire in the radio cut loose that connected us to wacky radio. So we couldn't get that particular radio station because he didn't want to listen to the rock and roll.
That reminds me, I'm reading the Hornbaker Ric Flair biography. Flair's dad did a speech speaking out against comic books.
Yes. Yes. He was an anti-comic crusader in the 50s.
All these older guys hated the fun.
They hated the fun. But now you, with the everyday earbuds from Raycon, you don't have to worry about missing any of those radio stations. You can listen to your favorite AM Top 40 station on an everyday earbud, or even both of them. It just depends on how many are in your ears. And right now, folks, create your own soundtrack with Raycon. Because you can get 15% off your entire Raycon order at buyraycon.com/JCE. That is buyraycon.com/JCE for 15% off whatever and however many of their products that you would like to purchase at buyraycon.com. And with all of these features, you can now be in control of the voices inside your head.
You know what the worst thing about Raycon is? Every time I get one of my kids steal it.
Well, and this is another thing that Raycon is doing. It's contributing to juvenile delinquency across America.
That's not what I was saying, and that's not what Raycon is doing. What they're doing is supplying great earbuds without wires to the wonderful people out there, the populace that listens to this program.
They're so sought after. Everybody wants the Raycons that the kids are starting to steal them. And the child delinquency rates are through the roof. So you've got to buy.
Don't say these things.
No, well, you have to. You got to do it as your civic duty to take care of the children and lead them on the right path of honesty. Every home in America has to have a set of Raycon everyday earbuds so that the kids won't have to steal them. So get busy. The children of America depend on you. You can save our next generation.
With Raycon.
Keep them honest with Raycon. If everybody has them, you won't have to steal them.
So one Raycon for everyone. That's your plan?
I think so, and possibly two. It depends on how many people's in the house.
Well, different colors, too. You may want to get them so you can color coordinate them.
Any race of people.
No, I mean the earbuds are different colors, not the people.
Oh, they have different colors?
Yes, they have different colors. Raycon!
I like the flesh-colored ones. You can really hide those.
All right, this is your show.